Welcome back to Mr. Bedtime Reader. Close your eyes, let your shoulders relax, and tonight, we'll explore a quiet truth. Big changes don't come from huge leaps, they come from tiny steps. A single good habit can change your life, and a single bad habit can quietly steal your potential. In Atomic Habits, James Clear reveals how small improvements, repeated over time, can create extraordinary transformations. No pressure, no overnight miracles. Just tiny, consistent actions that build a better you. So tonight, as you drift into rest, let's wander through a world where every small choice matters. And see how you can rewire your habits, reshape your identity, and quietly build the life you've always wanted. Now let's start with Chapter 1, The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. There's a man sitting in an ice rink. It's freezing and the room is empty except for one figure skater circling slowly on the ice. At first, nothing seems to be happening. The temperature is just below freezing, the skater moves quietly and the man waits. Then slowly, the air cools 1 more degree. The ice begins to harden just a little. The skater glides faster. And without warning, it feels like the whole rink transforms, not because of a sudden change, but because of many tiny, invisible ones adding up over time. Small changes, big impact. James Clear calls these atomic habits, tiny routines that seem too small to matter in the moment, yet over months and years they can transform your life. Think of a plane leaving Los Angeles. The pilot tilts the nose by just 3.5 degrees, a change no passenger notices. But hours later, instead of New York, they land in Washington, D.C. Small changes don't just change your path. They change your destination. The British cycling transformation. For decades, British cycling was a joke. No Olympic gold medals, no Tour de France wins. Then coach Dave Brailsford arrived. His philosophy, the aggregation of marginal gains, finding tiny ways to improve everything by just 1%. New bike seats, cleaner chains, lighter uniforms. They even taught riders how to wash their hands to avoid getting sick. At first it seemed silly. But within a decade, British cyclists were dominating the Olympics and winning race after race. Why this matters for you? We often think success comes from massive leaps, the overnight miracle. But real lasting change comes from small, consistent actions. Like drops of water carving stone, your habits are shaping your future every single day. So as you lie here tonight, don't worry about the giant leap. Just think of one small step you can take tomorrow. Because even the smallest habit can set you on a whole new path. And in Chapter 2 we know how habits shape your identity. Once in a small coffee shop on a rainy afternoon, two friends sat across from each other. One of them, Alex, had been trying to quit smoking for years. He had tried gum, patches, even hypnosis, but the habit always came back. As they sipped their coffee, his friend asked, "Alex, are you a smoker who's trying to quit, or a non-smoker who doesn't smoke?" Alex laughed. "What's the difference?" "The difference," his friend said gently, "is everything. You will always act like the person you believe you are." The hidden truth about habits. James Clear explains that most people focus on what they want to achieve. I want to lose weight. I want to write a book. I want to be rich. But real change begins when you focus on who you want to become. I'm a healthy person. I'm a writer. I'm an investor. Because when your identity changes, your actions follow naturally. Daniel's small wins. Alex decided to try something new. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to quit," he began saying, "I'm not a smoker." Every time he refused a cigarette, he wasn't just avoiding a puff. He was casting a vote for the type of person he wanted to be. Small wins stacked up. One day, he realized he no longer needed willpower, the identity had already taken root. Tonight, think about the habits you've been struggling with. Instead of asking yourself, "What do I want to do?" ask, "Who do I want to be?" Because once you believe it, your habits will take care of themselves. Now we entered in Chapter 3, which is how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. Picture a small village where every morning the baker lights his oven before the sun rises. It's the same routine every day: wake up, light the fire, knead the dough, bake the bread. He doesn't think about whether to do it. He just does it. And because of that, every morning, the village wakes to the smell of fresh bread. Habits work the same way, small, repeatable steps that deliver big results over time. The 4 laws of behavior change. James Clear explains that every habit follows a simple loop. Cue, something triggers the habit. Craving, you feel a desire to act. Response, you take the action. Reward, you feel satisfied and your brain says, let's do this again. Sophia's evening walk. Sophia wanted to get healthier, but she hated the gym. So she built a habit around walking. Her cue was the moment she put her coffee cup in the sink after dinner. Her craving was the peaceful time to think. Her response was slipping on her sneakers and heading outside. Her reward was the calm, happy feeling when she returned. Day after day, she repeated this loop. Before she knew it, walking wasn't a chore, it was part of who she was. Every habit, good or bad, lives inside this loop. Change the cue, craving, response, or reward, and you can change the habit. So tonight, as you drift to sleep, think of one small loop you could start tomorrow. A habit so simple, it feels effortless to begin. So here is chapter 4, which is The Man Who Did Look Right. In a quiet hospital, a nurse was doing her nightly rounds. She entered a patient's room and paused. Something about the man lying in the bed felt off. His color was a little pale. His breathing just a bit too slow. But nothing on the monitors showed danger. Still, the nurse trusted her gut. She called a doctor immediately. Within minutes, the man was rushed to intensive care, just in time to save his life. The power of tiny cues. James Clear uses this story to show that habits and even life-saving decisions often come from noticing small cues others overlook. The nurse had years of experience observing patients. Her brain had built an invisible library of patterns. And when something didn't fit, she acted almost automatically. Ethan's desk. Take Ethan, a writer who struggled to work. Every morning he'd waste hours scrolling through his phone. One day, he realized the cue for distraction was his phone sitting on his desk. So he moved it to another room before writing. Without that cue, his mornings became focused, productive, and calm. Your environment is always whispering to you. Every object, sound, or smell is a cue that nudges you toward a habit. Change the cues and you change the behavior. As you rest tonight, think about the little signals in your life. Which ones lead you toward the person you want to become, and which ones pull you away? Here is chapter 5, the best way to start a new habit. On a chilly January morning in London, a young man named Oliver decided he was finally going to get fit. He pictured himself jogging in the park, muscles toned, feeling unstoppable. So he went to the gym for exactly 1 day. By February, his running shoes were gathering dust. Why? Because he started too big too soon. The 2-minute rule. James Clear shares a trick called the 2-minute rule. When you start a new habit, make it so easy you can do it in 2 minutes or less. If your goal is to read more, start by reading 1 page. If your goal is to run, start by putting on your running shoes. Clara's tea ritual. Clara wanted to meditate daily, but could never stay consistent. So she tied the habit to something she already did, drinking her evening tea. The cue was simple. When the kettle clicked, she would sit quietly for 2 minutes, breathing slowly. That was it, no pressure, no 30-minute goal. Over time, those 2 minutes grew into 10, then 20. Now, meditation wasn't something she had to do, it was simply part of who she was. Big habits are born from tiny beginnings. You don't need to climb the whole mountain at once. Just take the first step, the one so small you can't fail. Tonight, think of the smallest version of your biggest dream. And start there. Well, in chapter 6, we know about motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Imagine you walk into a cozy little bakery. The smell of fresh cinnamon rolls fills the air, warm light glows from the oven, and the counter is lined with pastries. You didn't plan to buy anything, but somehow you're already reaching for your wallet. That's the power of environment. It shapes your choices more than sheer willpower ever could. Shaping the path. James Clear explains that while most people focus on getting motivated, successful habit builders design their surroundings to make good habits effortless and bad habits harder. If you want to eat healthier, keep fruit on the counter and hide the chips in the cupboard. If you want to practice guitar, keep it on a stand in the middle of your room instead of in its case. Leo's water bottle. Leo wanted to drink more water but always forgot. So he placed a water bottle on his desk every morning before work. Just seeing it there, the cue, reminded him to take a sip. By the end of the month, drinking water wasn't a struggle, it was second nature. We often think we need more discipline. But what we really need is a better stage for our habits to perform. As you fall asleep tonight, picture your environment tomorrow. And imagine how you could rearrange it so that your best habits feel almost automatic. So let's enter in chapter 7, which is The Secret to Self-Control. There's a story about soldiers in Vietnam. During the war, many became addicted to heroin, a terrifying discovery for the US government. But here, the surprising part. When those soldiers came home, 9 out of 10 simply stopped using. No rehab, no years of struggle. Why? Because the environment that triggered the habit was gone. Avoid the cue. James Clear explains that self-control isn't about having iron willpower. It's about avoiding the cues that spark bad habits in the first place. If you're trying to eat less junk food, don't keep it in the house. If you want to stop checking your phone late at night, leave it in another room before bed. Maya's social media fix. Maya wanted to cut down on scrolling. Instead of fighting temptation, she deleted the apps from her phone and only used them on her laptop. Suddenly, the mindless urge to scroll vanished, not because she was stronger, but because the trigger was out of reach. Self-control isn't a daily battle you have to win. It's a game you can choose not to play. As you drift into sleep, think of one cue you can remove tomorrow, and how peaceful life could feel without it. In chapter 8, we learn about how to make a habit irresistible. When Sophie was little, her grandmother would bake cookies every Sunday. The smell of warm vanilla and chocolate chips drifting through the air meant more than just dessert. It meant laughter, hugs, and the comfort of home. Years later, just smelling cookies baking could make Sophie smile, even before she took a bite. That's the secret James Clear calls temptation bundling, linking something you want to do with something you need to do. The brain's reward system. Your brain loves rewards. When a habit feels good, your mind wants to repeat it. So if you want to make a habit stick, pair it with something you enjoy. Want to exercise? Only watch your favorite TV show while on the treadmill. Need to clean the kitchen? Play your favorite upbeat playlist while you do it. Ethan's podcast walks. Ethan wanted to walk more, but it always felt like a chore. So he made a rule: he could only listen to his favorite podcast while walking outside. Soon he didn't just want to walk, he looked forward to it. The more pleasant you make a habit, the more it becomes a treat instead of a task. Tonight, as you drift off, imagine the small habits you want to grow, and the little joys you could wrap around them to make them simply irresistible. So we entered in chapter 9, which is the role of family and friends in shaping your habits. When Daniel moved to a small coastal town, he noticed something curious. Everyone seemed to ride bikes to work, to the market, even to the beach. At first he felt awkward joining in. But soon, without thinking, he found himself pedaling along the same paths every morning. Why? Because humans are deeply influenced by the people around them. We imitate the group. James Clear explains that we naturally adopt habits that are common in our tribe, whether that tribe is family, friends, coworkers, or a community. We do this because belonging feels safe, and standing out can feel risky. The 3 social groups. The close family and close friends. The many, the larger crowd around us. The powerful, those we look up to. When these groups model a habit, it becomes easier, even enjoyable, to follow along. Mia's reading circle. Mia always wanted to read more, but never made time. Then she joined a small book club. Because everyone else read before their weekly meetups, Mia began reading too, not out of discipline, but because she wanted to be part of the conversation. Surround yourself with people who live the way you wish to live, and soon their habits will quietly become your own. As you rest tonight, think about your tribe, and whether they pull you closer to the person you want to be. And in chapter 9, we know the role of family and friends in shaping your habits. When Daniel moved to a small coastal town, he noticed something curious. Everyone seemed to ride bikes to work, to the market, even to the beach. At first he felt awkward joining in. But soon, without thinking, he found himself pedaling along the same paths every morning. Why? Because humans are deeply influenced by the people around them. We imitate the group. James Clear explains that we naturally adopt habits that are common in our tribe, whether that tribe is family, friends, coworkers, or a community. We do this because belonging feels safe and standing out can feel risky. The three social groups. The close family and close friends. The many, the larger crowd around us. The powerful, those we look up to. When these groups model a habit, it becomes easier, even enjoyable, to follow along. Mia's reading circle. Mia always wanted to read more but never made time. Then she joined a small book club. Because everyone else read before their weekly meetups, Mia began reading too, not out of discipline, but because she wanted to be part of the conversation. Surround yourself with people who live the way you wish to live. And soon their habits will quietly become your own. As you rest tonight, think about your tribe and whether they pull you closer to the person you want to be. And in Chapter 10, we know how to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. In a quiet little cafe, Oliver noticed something strange. Every time he sat by the window with his laptop, he ended up ordering a pastry even if he wasn't hungry. One day he asked himself why here and not anywhere else. He realized it wasn't hunger. It was the smell drifting from the bakery next door. The cue was invisible but powerful. Every habit has a trigger. James Clear teaches that bad habits aren't random. They're responses to certain cues, a place, a time, an emotion, even a person. If you can identify the trigger, you can change the habit. The habit loop detective. Ask yourself, where does this habit happen? When does it happen? What's the emotional state before it? Who's around? What just happened before? Often the answer reveals a pattern you didn't see before. Lena's stress snacking. Lena always grabbed chips at 3 p.m. When she traced it back, she realized it wasn't about hunger, it was the stress spike after her daily team meeting. So instead of chips, she started taking a 5-minute walk after the meeting. The stress eased and the snacking habit faded away. When you understand the why behind a habit, you hold the power to rewrite it. Tonight, before you sleep, think of one habit you want to change. And gently ask yourself, what's really causing it? Now in Chapter 11 we know walk slowly but never backward. There's a small village in the mountains where a winding trail leads to the top of a hill. Every morning, old Mr. Hand takes that trail. He doesn't rush, he doesn't care how long it takes. He just puts one foot in front of the other until he reaches the top. When a young traveler once asked him, "Don't you ever get tired of going so slowly?" Mr. Hand smiled and said, "Slow steps still move you forward, standing still does." The power of consistency. James Clear reminds us that success isn't about giant leaps, it's about small, steady steps in the right direction. You can move slowly, take breaks, even stumble. As long as you don't move backward. The bamboo lesson. Bamboo takes years to sprout above the soil. In that time, it's building strong roots beneath the ground. Then, when it finally breaks through, it can grow more than 3 feet in a single day. Progress works the same way, it's slow, invisible until it's not. Sophia's side hustle. Sophia wanted to start her own jewelry business. Instead of waiting for the perfect time, she worked on it for 20 minutes each night after dinner. Months later, those quiet, steady sessions grew into a full online store. You don't need to rush. You only need to keep moving step by step, day by day. And as you rest tonight, remember, even the smallest steps forward will, in time, carry you far. Here is Chapter 12, which is about the law of least effort. In a quiet countryside town, there's a little footpath that cuts straight through a meadow. It's not the official route, the official path winds around the hill, paved and proper. But people take the shortcut because it's easier, faster, and requires less effort. James Clear says our brains work the same way. We naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least energy. Make good habits easy, bad habits hard. If you want to start a habit, remove friction. If you want to stop a habit, add friction. It's that simple and that powerful. Ethan's guitar habit. Ethan wanted to practice guitar daily, but he kept skipping. Then he placed his guitar on a stand in the middle of his living room instead of in its case. The moment he walked by, it called to him, and soon he was strumming every day. Maya's late night scrolling. Maya stayed up too late on her phone, so she left it in the kitchen at night. Suddenly, checking social media required getting out of bed, and most nights she didn't bother. Life will always follow the path of least resistance. Shape that path so it leads toward the life you want, and away from the one you don't. As you drift to sleep, think of one small change you can make. A way to make the good easier and the bad harder. So we entered in chapter 13, which is about how to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. Liam always dreamed of writing a book. He bought fancy notebooks, signed up for writing workshops, even set deadlines. But every time he sat down to write, the task felt too big, too heavy. So he'd put it off. Then one day, a mentor told him, "Just write for 2 minutes, that's it." It sounded too simple, but Liam tried it. 2 minutes of scribbling turned into 5, then 10. Weeks later, chapters began to take shape. Why 2 minutes works. James Clear explains. When you start a habit, make it so easy that you can't say no. 2 minutes feels effortless, and it bypasses the mental resistance that stops you from beginning. From 2 minutes to mastery. Want to run? Start by putting on your shoes. Want to read? Open the book and read 1 page. Want to meditate? Close your eyes and take 2 deep breaths. These tiny starts tell your brain, this is easy, let's keep going. Ellie's decluttering trick. Ellie hated cleaning, so she decided to tidy for just 2 minutes a day. Some days she stopped after 2 minutes. But most days, once she started, she didn't want to quit. Big dreams can feel overwhelming. But if you make the first step small enough, you'll take it, and that's all you need to begin. As you rest tonight, remember, 2 minutes today can grow into a lifetime of change. Now in chapter 14, we learn about how to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. In a small coastal town, a fisherman named Daniel wanted to eat healthier. But every evening he'd come home tired, open the cupboard. And the first thing he saw was a bag of chips. Then one day, he decided to change his environment. He filled his fridge with fresh, cut-up vegetables, kept a water bottle on the counter, and gave the chips to his neighbor. Suddenly, eating well felt automatic. The power of environment design. James Clear says, make good habits the default by setting up your surroundings to guide your behavior. But the best choice is also the easiest choice. You'll naturally do it without a fight. Emma's guitar habit. Emma wanted to practice daily, so she kept her guitar on a stand right by her desk and stored her TV remote in a drawer across the room. Her practice sessions doubled, and her TV time dropped without effort. Reverse engineering bad habits. Want to stop a habit? Make it harder to do. Leave your phone in another room during work. Unplug the console when you want to game less. Keep sweets out of the house if you want to eat better. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. As you drift off tonight, think of one change you could make to your surroundings. That would make the right choice the easy choice. Now in chapter 15, we know the cardinal rule of behavior chain. On a warm summer evening, Mia sat on her porch trying to form a journaling habit. She tried before, but after a few days, the notebook stayed closed. One night she realized something. The problem wasn't the habit itself, it was that she didn't feel good while doing it. So she lit a candle, made a cup of tea, and played soft music each time she wrote. Suddenly, journaling became something she looked forward to. Make it satisfying. James Clear calls this the cardinal rule. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. If you want a habit to stick, you need to make it feel good in the moment. Not just in the future. The instant gratification shift. We often build habits for future rewards. We exercise to be healthy next year. We save money for a future trip. We study to get a degree later. But our brains crave instant satisfaction. So link your habits to something enjoyable right now. David's reading ritual. David wanted to read more. He paired his reading time with his favorite chair and a piece of dark chocolate. The moment he thought about reading, his mind also thought about the cozy pleasure that came with it. If you make the process enjoyable, you won't have to push yourself to do it. You'll be pulled toward it naturally. As you close your eyes tonight, think about one habit you could make instantly satisfying, and watch it grow without resistance. In Chapter 16, we know how to stick with good habits every day. Oliver had always wanted to meditate. He'd start for a few days, then miss one. And before he knew it, the habit was gone. One morning, while reading about habit building, he discovered a simple rule. Don't break the chain. He printed a small calendar, and every day he meditated, even if just for 1 minute. He marked a big red X. After a week, the chain began to grow. Soon the thought of breaking it felt wrong. The power of visual tracking. James Clear explains, habit tracking makes progress visible, and visible progress is motivating. It turns an invisible habit into something you can see. A teacher's story. Ms. Carter wanted her students to practice vocabulary every day. She gave each child a jar and marbles. Every time they practiced, they dropped a marble in. By the end of the month, the jars were full. And so were their new language skills. 2 simple rules. Never miss twice. Missing 1 day is a mistake. Missing 2 in a row is the start of a new habit, the habit of stopping. Keep it small on tough days. Do the minimum. Even a 1-minute habit counts toward keeping the chain alive. Habits are like plants. They don't need perfect conditions to grow. Just consistent care. As you settle into sleep, remember, do something small for your dream tomorrow, and watch the chain grow 1 day at a time. Here is Chapter 17, which tells how an accountability partner changes everything. In a quiet little town, Sophie dreamed of writing a book. Every January she'd start strong. But by February, her pages gathered dust. Then she made one small change. She told her friend Clara she would send her 1 new page every night. If she didn't, she had to donate $20 to a cause she didn't like. The thought of losing money and facing Clara's knowing smile kept her fingers typing even on tired days. The power of social pressure. James Clear says, we care deeply about what others think, and we can use that to our advantage. When someone is watching, our actions shift to match our promises. The gym pack story. 2 coworkers, Alex and Brian, wanted to get in shape. They made a rule. If either skipped the gym, they had to pay the other $50. Neither wanted to lose money or look lazy, so they rarely missed a workout. Why it works? Commitment devices lock you into good behavior before temptation strikes. Social contracts create an outside force to keep you consistent. When we promise ourselves, we whisper. When we promise others, we speak loud enough to be heard. And that's when we start to listen. As you drift into sleep, think of one person you could share your next goal with, and let them help you keep the fire alive. Now in Chapter 18, we know the truth about talent. When Leo was a boy, he loved playing piano. But his cousin Daniel, he could sit at the keys for the first time and play melodies like magic. For years, Leo believed Daniel was simply born talented. Then one day, he read something that changed his perspective. Talent matters, but it's the match between your skills and your chosen game that counts most. Finding your game. James Clear explains, if you pick habits that align with your natural abilities and interests, you'll feel pulled toward them instead of pushing yourself. It's like swimming with the current instead of against it. The sprinter and the marathoner. 2 athletes joined a running club. One excelled at explosive sprints. The other had unmatched endurance. When they trained for the wrong races, both struggled. But when they switched sprinter to short races, endurance runner to marathons, they both began winning. The difference. The game fit their natural strengths. Your unique advantage. Look for habits that feel like they fit you. It's not about avoiding challenges, it's about setting yourself up to enjoy the process. When the work feels like play, consistency becomes effortless. As you close your eyes tonight, think about the habits that feel light and natural for you. They're not just easier, they're the ones most likely to lead you to mastery. Here is Chapter 19, which is the Goldilocks rule. Maya loved painting, but when the paintings got too easy, she grew bored. When they were too hard, she felt frustrated. Then she discovered a sweet spot. Pieces just challenging enough to make her stretch. but not so difficult they crushed her spirit. This, James Clear says, is the Goldilocks rule. We stay most motivated when working on tasks, right at the edge of our current abilities. Why the sweet spot matters. Too easy, right arrow boredom. Too hard, right arrow discouragement. Just right arrow flow. In that flow state, hours can pass like minutes. The runner's lesson. A runner named Sam was training for a 5K. At first he ran short distances comfortably. Then he started pushing just a little farther each week. Never too much, never too little. By race day he was ready. And more importantly, he had enjoyed every step of the journey. Practical takeaway. Find that just right level in your habits. Enough challenge to keep you interested, but not so much it feels impossible. As you drift toward sleep, remember, growth lives in the space between comfort and panic. That's where your dreams quietly turn into reality. So here is chapter 20, which tells the downside of creating good habits. In a quiet city apartment, Daniel woke up every day at 6 a.m. He brewed his coffee, opened his laptop, and wrote exactly 500 words before heading to work. It was automatic. Almost too automatic. One morning he realized something strange. He had been writing the same safe, predictable words for months. His habit had made him consistent, but also a little stuck. When habits become a rut, James Clear warns us. Habits are powerful, but they can lock us into patterns. When a routine becomes mindless, we risk losing creativity and growth. The story of the photographer. A famous photographer took daily sunrise shots from the same hill for a year. At first, each photo felt magical, but over time his work grew stale, until he decided to hike new trails, try new angles, and break the pattern he had built. The balance. Habits keep us on track. Novelty keeps us sharp. The secret is to mix the structure of habit with the curiosity of a beginner's mind. As you lie in bed tonight, remember, good habits should guide you, but they should never cage you. Leave the door open for surprise, exploration, and wonder. Now here is chapter 21, in which we learn about how to review your habits and make adjustments. Every New Year's Eve, Claire had a quiet tradition. She would light a candle, sit at her kitchen table, and pull out a worn leather notebook. Inside were pages of her habits, the good, the bad, and the ones that had quietly slipped away. She didn't judge herself. She simply asked, are these habits still taking me where I want to go? The power of reflection. James Clear reminds us, life changes and so should our habits. Without reflection, we risk climbing a ladder. That's leaning against the wrong wall. The pilot's check-in. Think of yourself as the pilot of a plane. Even a small shift in direction can change where you end up. Regular reviews help you catch those shifts early, before you land somewhere you never intended to go. Simple review steps. Look back, what worked, what didn't. Look ahead, what matters now. Adjust, drop what no longer serves you. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine looking over your own map of habits. Adjust your course just slightly, and watch how far those small changes will carry you. Now we reach chapter 22, conclusion, the secret to results that last. Imagine planting a tiny seed in a garden. You water it, give it sunlight, and check on it every day. At first, nothing seems to happen. Then one morning, a small green shoot breaks through the soil. Weeks pass, and that small sprout becomes a sturdy plant. Months later, it's strong enough to give shade and bear fruit. The truth about lasting change. James Clear leaves us with a simple truth. Success is not one giant leap. It's a series of small, smart steps, repeated consistently over time. You don't need radical transformations overnight. You need patience and a system that works quietly in the background, shaping you little by little every day. The marathon, not the sprint. Think of your habits as companions on a long journey. They walk beside you. They grow with you. They lead you toward the life you dream of, if you give them enough time to work their quiet magic. And so, as you drift into sleep tonight, remember, every choice you make tomorrow is a seed you plant for your future. Plant wisely, nurture patiently, and watch your life bloom. You've now walked through the quiet power of small habits. You've seen how one tiny change, repeated again and again, can transform not just your days, but your life. Remember, you don't have to change everything at once. You only have to take the next small step. And trust that it will carry you further than you ever imagined. Life isn't built in sudden leaps. It's crafted in the soft rhythm of consistent choices, just like the ones you're about to make tomorrow. So tonight, let your mind rest. Let your dreams wander toward the life you're building. And know that every sunrise will give you another chance to plant a seed, nurture a habit, and grow into the person you wish to become. This is Mr. Bedtime Reader, thanking you for spending this time with me. Until we meet again, sleep well, dream deeply, and remember, tomorrow is already waiting to be shaped by you. Always remember, I am with you. Good night, Crescent Moon.